Wowee, and everybody, here we go. Welcome everybody to the SharePoint Framework bi-weekly sync. Wowee! August 21st, 2025. Very exciting. We've got all sorts of cool things for you today. Well, of course, we'll go through all of our project updates, let you know everything that's going on all over the place. Then we will take a photo, and then we've got two wonderful demos for you. We've got Nello up first. He's doing a SPFx and Azure OpenAI with Azure Agent, I don't know, he'll tell you all about it. Agent Intelligence, that's the one. And then Hugo is doing some kind of AI stuff. I don't know. So it's an exciting day. Woo! So let's take a look. First off, if you're not aware, we've got a ton of stuff available for you. So we've got a whole bunch of videos. We got our LinkedIn group. You want to come over here and professionalize it up, and you want to get over there and do some business in, right? We've got all these open source repos, both a ton of tools and samples all over the place. We got, well, I don't know, like 1,000 plus, a couple thousand samples. I'm going to say 1 million samples. And then, of course, we've got everything all for you. You can find it all here on this aka.ms/community/home. Head over there. You'll find links to everything, including all the calls and everything else. And speaking of calls, if you're not aware, this is one of those calls, and you can join them live anytime you want here, well, when they're happening. But you can also watch them on YouTube afterwards. So please come over to this link here. You can find links to join the meetings and add them to your calendar. They'll even update with time zones. Very, very fancy. And, of course, we have a call coming up on the 26th of August, so just a few days from now, where we're going to have Tobias, Guido, and Emmanuel tell us all about a Copilot Learning Center, and then Eliane is going to be telling us about AI-driven archiving of the SharePoint sites. Ooh, very cool. And, of course, if you would like to be one of our presenters, we would love to have you. Please come fill out this form, and we will reach out to you and arrange that. We're happy to help you with ideas, how you want to present it. If you got questions about slides or demos or any of that stuff, we'll be happy to walk you through it. So first-time presenters are very, very welcome. Multiple-time presenters also welcome. And even Hugo's welcome. So that's great. All right. David, tell us about this stuff.
Yeah, what is this stuff, Chris? Thank you. So Sharing is Caring is a program that got kicked off by Hugo and myself. We are on summer break now, but we're coming out of that as everybody comes back from vacations. They're going to be setting up sessions that are live. They are hands-on. They provide you guidance in areas of which you would like to contribute in the community. So as you start seeing all these samples today and you think, well, I'd like to contribute to those, but there's that whole confusing labyrinth of GitHub isms of like pull request and blame and branch and what are all those things? Fork. I'm not even hungry. What's going on here? We're going to demystify it. These are live sessions. They're hands-on, which means that you will work alongside other members of the community learning together, and it's a safe space. So you can ask any and all questions that you would like without having to worry about it going on record, because we always question whether we should ask a question, and you shouldn't do that. You want to ask a question so we can learn together. So we'll be scheduling those here soon. We're looking at also doing them on the fixed days of the week, very much like, and fixed days of the month, very much like we do with community calls to make it a little easier. So be on the lookout for that. Excited to get those all figured out and scheduled. And then once you do contribute, we would love to recognize you for the amazing work that you're doing. And that is where our recognition program comes in. This is not just any old recognition program. This is a best in class certified by Credly, which means that they have recognized this as the best in class in a community. So thank you all for doing the amazing work. You see some of those cool new badges. That Copilot Studio Agent Academy is coming up there. Of course, we are in superhero season, so it's time for the Porcupine Rises. We've had a number of contributors who have already earned this bonus badge, which you get absolutely free by contributing to the other 4 badges. So be on the lookout for those. You can opt into ak.ms/community/recognition. It is absolutely free. There's no cost. And these badges do matter, by the way. You may think, well, that just looks like a ton of fun. And it is, but they are real and they are accredited. And what does that mean? It means that you can show your management that you're reaching out and making a difference and helping the community. It means that you can show your clients that you're reaching out and making a difference in the community, that you're getting involved, you're helping improve the technology that is being used and sharing with others. So it sets you apart from perhaps your peers or your competitors. So it's a great way to show it off. So put it on your blog, put it on your LinkedIn profile, share it with the masses, and we cannot appreciate enough all the work that you're doing in the community. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And Chris, back to you.
Wowee. Well, good news. We have a special guest with us talking about the SharePoint Framework. Someone from a long time ago in the community. He's been gone for many, I don't know, moons, I will say.
Many moons.
Best to tell us all about it.
I was gone for so many moons. So SharePoint Framework updated the statistics, and it's good to be riding the rocket. So seasonal going down obviously in summertime, but the overall growth is just phenomenal. It's awesome to see that the pro development is for sure a thing in Microsoft 365 all out with SharePoint Framework. Let's go to the following slide. I did update this one already, catching up on things 1.5 weeks in, but we do have some updates. So 121.1 is the latest version. There was some small fixes on that one. That's from 4th of May. 122 is ETA now in September. We're rolling out a changes on the Webpack and Gulp and Heft usages, and faster pipelines is the objective over there. And then other adjustments. The final list of work is in progress. We'll review some stuff later today. 123 is intended to come still on December. So we're moving into this quarterly release schedule, also with a public roadmap blog post in a monthly basis, and all of that stuff. So making sure that people don't have any questions, which we saw during the summertime related on hey, is SPFx still a thing? And answer is absolutely, it's still a thing. So there's a lot of other stuff available. Now, semester focus areas. One thing what we're explicitly working just to call this one out is that we're looking into open sourcing all of the out-of-the-box templates which are available through the Yeoman generator. We're going through the logistics on that one. It might be that we'll have a separate CLI which will replace the Yeoman generator and which will be open source as well. And how do we actually do all of that stuff? The idea there is that rather than we providing you just what we think is best for you, you can actually open source, you can extend, you can create variations out of those out-of-the-box templates. And there are people who are saying that they want to have certain specific in the templates. They can actually do that in the future. So going open source for a lot of this stuff is definitely the objective. Anyway, that's quick deep dive from the engineering side. We'll have more practical exact details as we get stuff locked. More insights on that later. And that's going to be named as SPFx. That's good in the chat. Thank you, Brady. Wow-wee! Let's move to the next one.
Ooh, speaking of open source, let's talk about our open source projects. Oh, top quality transition. All right, first up is our blogs, of which there are no new blog posts. We did it. We covered the update. Moving on. David, you want to yeah, you can tell us about this.
Yeah, no problem. I was going to talk about the blogs, but by the way, the blogs, everybody, are open for everyone in the community. It's not just members of the community or members of the team here. So if you do want to contribute to the blogs, you can do that. Absolutely, you're welcome. Please do. In fact, you'll get a badge for it. Shared a link in the chat as well as a link to one of the newer blogs about that best-in-class recognition program, recognition that we got. So yeah, don't hesitate. If you got a blog post, there is some information there, and we got guidance on it for you. So don't hesitate. Reach out if you have any questions to Louisa or myself or Adam. So excellent work. Thank you. And then, yeah, as we get into our PNP prompt library, that is one of the more easy ways to contribute as well, everybody, because we're all starting to learn different ways to interact with AI and create those prompts and prompts to improve prompts and all that kind of stuff. Promptception. So it's a great way to get involved. It's a super lightweight. You do have to obviously contribute via GitHub, but that's where that sharing is caring can help out. And we also did one a couple weeks ago on a call that we shared the video for. So there's lots of ways to be able to figure out how to navigate that GitHub if you're looking to do it sooner than later. So we appreciate it. And if you do contribute, you could become our prompt of the week. That's right. So thank you from Adam, who has a prompt on weekly highlights summary. So I'm not going to read it all for you. You can check it out and you can test it out. But you can absolutely become our prompt of the week. He's created one here that kind of highlights what you've done throughout your week and helps you even plan for the next 2 to 3 weeks. So really cool to see how these are all being used. I love how we're also being able to see how these are used, not just professionally, but kind of life hacking. We've seen some there too. So those are welcome as well, everyone. Don't feel like it has to be specific to Microsoft technology. Show how to use the AI for things in normal everyday activities like gardening we've seen. So it's a great way to get involved. Don't hesitate. If you got a cool idea and you've created a cool prompt, share it and become the prompt of the week. Chris, back to you.
Wow. Yeah, and I'd say Adam also gets flannel shirt of the week. Good job, buddy. All right. Didn't even know that was a category, did you? Now you're all going to be changing. All right. Let's see. Let's talk about these PNP.js clients and libraries. I don't believe we got Julie Orbo, do we? That's so sad. But we had a brand new version, 4.16.0, released on August 11th. So be sure to check that out. Version 5 updates are in progress. So if you're interested in seeing what's coming there, be sure to check that out. And if you're not using PNP.js, why? Please do. All right, David, why don't you talk about this one?
All right, sure. Yeah, I'm back, everybody. So, CLI for Microsoft 365. Gary is out on a well-deserved vacation right now, but we've got some updates here around Microsoft Android, SharePoint Online. There's new command docs updated for minimal permissions, right? That's a fun word to say, minimal permissions. CLI MCP server, of course, is out there now, so we're starting to see that being used. Exciting stuff. So get involved here. They've got a very organized team around CLI for Microsoft 365. V10.10.0, that just rolls right off the tongue. I feel like you should stay that forever. But check it out if you're not already using it. Great way to interact with aspects of the Microsoft 365 ecosystem, as well as other areas of the entire Microsoft umbrella. Chris, back to you.
It's like it says run 1010 right there. That's a great joke for me 10 years ago. All right, moving on. Dev Proxy. All right, so Dev Proxy has these things listed here as new. Wow! And that's great. And if I were Gary, I would tell you all about them. But I'm not Gary. So you can read them and then reach out to Gary in our Discord server. Wow. And Alex, why don't you tell us all about these?
It's very difficult to talk after you, Chris. But yeah, so React reusable SPFx controls. We have version 3.22 for React controls and 3.21 for property controls. Great new control there. World map, go use it, test it. As always, special thanks to all our contributors. And please, please, please create more PRs, create more issues, make these controls great, even more great than they are right now. And back to you, Chris.
Right. And Dr. Nico, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hi, everybody. So we've got some pretty sweet updates to share from our 4.9 minor release. And yes, before you ask, we're still calling it minor, even though it feels like we packed half the universe in there. So first of all, we have the LM tool. This bad boy now handles SPFx project upgrades for you. So no more manual headache, just ask and let it do the heavy lifting. Then at tenant-wide extension management, you can now enable, disable, remove, and update extensions across your tenant. And last but not least, we completely refactored the welcome experience so we can always use the extension management capabilities. And hey, if you want to contribute or have ideas for what we should tackle next, we're always happy to have more hands on deck. The project is open source for a reason. Back to you, Chris.
Ooh. And over Hugo. What are you going to tell us, Hugo?
Ooh, I get to speak 2 times today. We have a repository of web part and extension samples that you can use to get started and to learn how to use SPFx. If you have some cool samples you want to share, you can absolutely go to aka.ms/SPFx-webparts and do a pull request. But if you're looking for samples, you can find all our samples at aka.ms/community/samples. And I didn't get to process the PRs, but one of the PRs or one of the web parts that will be in the PRs will be the web part I'll be demoing today. And stay tuned for more. Back to you, Chris.
Suspense. Well, how about that sounds real good. Hey, if everyone noticed here, this is Tetsuya right here. We got list samples and everything. So if you haven't checked out that sample gallery, it's everything. It's awesome. All right, here we go. So let's talk about aces, David.
Yeah, so there are no new samples for aces, but I know Derek and Anoop are working on those as well. I believe there's a couple in there they're processing, but there is always room for more. So don't hesitate to submit a sample. You get that dedicated, cool 3 aces badge, so you can get part of that. So please do, and reach out to Derek or Anoop if you got any questions. They're great guys and love to help out. And now I think just instead of boomeranging back and forth, right, Chris, we're going to move on to picture mode. So get those cameras turned on, and I will take over the screen here, and we can move into together mode. I see some fantastic. Hugo is doing the Alfred Hitchcock pose. Very nice. Very well done. Like it. There's Don and Bessa, Nico. Excellent. All my favorite friends are here. Looking fantastic. There's Nello in the back. Excellent. We'll give everybody doing good on time. We got 2 demos, so we know Teams is a little delayed sometimes in connecting the cameras to the together mode, to the interwebs, to the pixels. So we will give it just another second. Looks like there's still a little bit more room. Everybody's warming up. Great to see everybody. All right, so let's give this a little bit of a countdown then. We'll say 3 and 2 and 1. Wave to the community, everybody. Great to see you again. Thank you for all that you're doing. Really wonderful to see you all. Appreciate each and every one of you and all you bring every single day. Really would not be possible to have these events again without you, and the support of these projects is just outstanding. So thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, Chris, well, back to you.
All right. So it's time for the demos. So Nello, you are up first. So you feel free to take over that screen and start talking whenever you're ready. Go for it. You can do it.
Let's go. Hello.
Oh, can you be a little louder? Maybe, is that possible?
Yeah.
There.
Just setting up. The mic was not on the right place. Okay. So I will present today our little submission for the hackathon, and that was also helped by two participants from my company, Nicole Beck and Fabian Utzli, who did the video and some part of the engineering. So my name is Nello. I'm the developer working for Mobiliar, an insurance company based in Switzerland. I work in a small team. We mainly do SPFx, TeamsFX, and Azure stuff. I will introduce first the challenge we did identify, how we approach this little project, and what difficulty we did encounter because we had difficulty, and how we try to solve them. Then I will explain the flow for simple agent and also for the multi-agent system. And I will then show some part of the code, demonstrate the setup of the demo, and wrap up this with a live demo. So this year is the year of the agents. Copilot is everywhere, GPT and so on. And then we first thought about implementing an agent in SPFx. That's a great idea, but there is one little caveat. Agents are isolated. So that's why I thought about trying to make them communicate together. And that's where I think SPFx and SharePoint Online naturally helps. So one web part is an agent, two web parts are two different agents. And if I can connect them together, that would be a great fit. The stack for us was pretty clear. SPFx for the front end. We would also use some RAG to index SharePoint Online document, and the backend with Azure function. So the idea was at the beginning of this little project, clear, develop a single agent web part, and somehow the main agent web part which would be capable of communicating with the other web part on the same page. When we want to retrieve file content and feed it to an LLM, we need to index those content first semantically. So this is because the context windows for an LLM is limited, and we cannot give every file to the LLM. So there is some preliminary step which we need to do. And we found out that the RAG is fairly simple to implement, but achieving good RAG result was not so easy. And I came across this LLM index framework. It's a RAG framework, open source, and found that the results are really good. So I implemented this little project with LLM index. Now I will a little bit talk about the simple agent flow. Basically, when we add this web part to a SharePoint Online page, we just need an agent name. We need a prompt to define how the agent behaves, what task it should solve, and we need some knowledge. So these are the files which we decided. We know that from SharePoint Agent or the easy Copilot Studio, the configuration is quite simple. Then when the user arrives on the page, it first hits the backend, the Azure function. one specific endpoint, and we'll check if the semantic indexing has been done for this configuration. So with this part, it means that the index is private or is on for every page and for every user different, and that's how we have solved the permission problem, because it only gathers the files which the user has permission for. And then the user can ask a question. It is sent to the backend, to another endpoint, and then the RAG retrieval is performed, and it is fed then to the LLM, which then generates a response, which is then streamed to the user in our SPF expert part. That's the simple agent flow. For the meta agent flow, so we need at least 2 different agents and 1 meta agent. I will show that in the demo in a couple of minutes. So in this demo, we have 3 different agents. The first one is SPFx agent, that's SPFx specialist. Then we have a TeamsFX agent, also a specialist in this area. And then the third one is the Power Platform agent, which is in this area, the specialist. So, and then when the user arrives on the page, then every agent, SPFx, TeamsFX, Power Platform agent, checks if the index is here, and if not, it will be built. And then there is an additional step, which is intent classification, which I've implemented, which has to understand what is the aim of this query, and what should the meta agent do when all the separate agent answer have been received. So when all the separate agent answer has been produced from the agent, it will then hit back the backend with a specific endpoint and do a so-called thinking. It's a little bit too much, but we speak about reasoning or thinking. Yeah, it will just try to understand what did the tree or the specific agent give back, and try to summarize that or analyze that in this context. So we have analysis, we have implemented analysis, and also comparison, and we did 4C discussions, so that was basically a multi-turn stuff, but we had no time to implement this in the hackathon. Okay, just speak a bit about the demo. So the SPFx web part is deployed on the tenant, but it could be also gulp served, so locally served. And then I've created a dev tunnel. So that means this is a free product from Microsoft, and basically you get a public URL which then points to your local machine, and you can then, if the web part is this public URL, which I have configured, I will show that in the demo, then it will hit my Azure function, which is running locally with those endpoint, and my Azure function, it's then going to the various cloud services like OpenAI or Cosmos DB. So now let's start with some Visual Studio. So as you can see here, so I have both project here. The first one is the backend project, and the other one is the SPFx web part. Now I've already the command in the command line. Basically, I've created previously the dev tunnel, but it gave me this new plain URL. Then I can start it here, and it will start the connection. So now, basically, when I get a URL call to this URL, this one here, then my SharePoint web part will be, I can show it here, and I see here that I have this stuff here configured. Okay, then I can start also the function here, and we will see that the different endpoints are here. They are available, and if I go to the backend here, for example, classification, these are quite easy. Python function. You can see here that it gets here some parameter. It is doing some checks, and then it is loading a system prompt from a JSON file. This JSON file is here, and this is the classification endpoint, so it will try to understand what the user wants when the agent did answer. So if I look at here, this one here. So basically, what we feed to the LLM is your language model specialized in classifying user requests, and it should give me back analyze, compare, discuss, or no. There is new technology today with that chat and so on, but at this time that was enough for us, also for the hackathon, and it works well. So it gets the user query, and then it's back with one of these four value. So now I will switch to my SharePoint Online. And at this point, I've one meta agent, it is here, and I've already configured the SPFx stack and the TeamsFX stack meta agent. Make this a little bit bigger. So, okay. Now I can add a new agent. So I will grab my agent web part here. Okay. And say this is the Power Platform stack specialist. I want to do a survey. What kind of avatar do you want? We'll take this one for the Power Platform. And yeah, I have here the values prompt. So I can take this here and go back here and do that. So, okay. And here I can configure these are the PNP control, which Alex spoke about. They are great for doing stuff very quickly and using a lot of, we use it a lot in our company. So, and that's okay. Great. And then I can publish that, and now it will hit my backend, and have just reloading this to be sure that it works, because it was a fast development. So I can here ask something. I want to develop a web part. Now I am just asking one single agent, so the so-called multi-agent flow is not active. I would have to activate it here. I will show that in the demo. To develop a UI component, what can I do? So in the document there are basic stuff which are implemented. And if we are okay, we should get an answer. Okay. So it goes to the Azure function, and then it gives me, based on the content I've defined in one file, I've generated this file based on the GPTs for SPFx, TeamsFX, and so on. Then I get this. So now I'm just resetting the history. So I'm starting here. The meta agent. So now delegated all the agents are in delegated mode, so I cannot give a question here, and then I'm asking a question here. I want to implement a UI component in SharePoint Online. And this is important. Analyze what is the best tag, and this will trigger the analyze classification, and then it will hopefully give us an answer. So now you see that the delegated agents have been triggered. So we wait that all the agents are triggered, and then get back to us with an answer. And that's great stuff from SharePoint Online. It is still here, yeah. And then I get the answer. I'm happy today because the demo worked. I've done just before another demo and it didn't work, but that's great. So that was from my part. I've also here in some resources about our submission, DevTunnel, which is a great product if you want to develop locally, and also LMI Index to perform RAG retrieval. Just give it a try. Thank you very much, and enjoy the next demo. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Really good stuff, Nello. Thank you very much. And then Hugo, if you're ready, you can feel free to go ahead and take over the screen and start sharing stuff.
Thank you. I didn't notice the flattering profile picture you had there for me. All right. Please give me a shout when you see my screen, and I will. All right. Thank you. Cool. All right. My name is Hugo Bernier. I work at Takeda Pharmaceutical with Chris. And I'm a AI wrangler. I think that's my role at Takeda. Session today is supposed to be about building SPFx solutions with AI. Now, I want to make it clear this title might be a little misleading. I'm not going to show you how to use AI to build SPFx solutions. I'm going to show you how you can use AI within your SPFx solutions, and probably more generally into any of your applications, to introduce delight for your users and to make your users love your applications. I work, again, at Takeda, where it's a pharmaceutical company. We're literally working on large problems like solving, curing cancer and solving world hunger with AI. But you don't have to always rely on just solving a big problem with AI. There's some really cool things that we can do. And let me show you what I mean. All right. So this web part that I'm going to demo, I have to admit, I'm very selfish. The web part I'm going to demo, I built it 6 years ago. And it's a series of web parts that I will talk to you about. But I never really, I put them in GitHub, but I never shared them as part of the PnP repository. I will be fixing that after this call. But just to show you that the web part we're going to be talking about today is actually not a fancy new web part. It's a web part that we've just kind of refactored a little bit and added AI to make it more betterer. I should also point out that, as always, I have my fancy Bork extension that replaces the fork button on GitHub, and it makes me happy every time I see it. All right, so the web parts that we are talking about, there's a series of web parts in that sample. One is a web part that allows you to do a flowchart by just typing simple markdown-like syntax. Another one allows you to build a sequence diagram using the same approach here, using a simple markdown syntax. And finally, the one that we'll be focusing on today is one that uses Mermaid to actually allow you to create any kind of diagram. And Mermaid is something that uses Markdown as well to create really cool, configurable, and sometimes interactive diagrams. Now, if you don't know about Mermaid, Mermaid is a library that is available for free. They do have some paid services as well, but it creates a whole bunch of different types of diagrams. It's open source. It's client-side only. So that means it's a JavaScript library that runs in your browser and generates an SVG rendering of diagrams based on the syntax you provide. Let me demo what we're going to be talking about today. There you go. All right. So if I go to Mermaid, and again, you can see how many different types of diagrams there are. But if I go into Mermaid and I show you some examples here, this is very dynamic. So if I just update the content, it will automatically update the content on the right. Here's some sample charts that are available. And as you can see, the syntax is maybe not the most intuitive, but it's pretty straightforward. You can look at the content and like Markdown content, you can kind of make sense of what it is without having to understand SVG syntax or things like that. There are all sorts of different diagrams that you can build. I'm not going to go through every single one. But what I wanted was a mechanism to be able to share within my team anytime that I had a diagram I needed to show or stats or things like that. And I was too lazy to actually create an image or a Visio diagram or something like that. So this is a live demo, by the way. So please, demo gods, be with me. So this is the web part, the Mermaid web part that we drop in. And the cool thing about the web part is that I can just change the syntax here. In fact, I'm going to go, because I'm lazy, I'm going to go copy and paste some fancy diagrams here. Here, let's paste this in and see what happens. Ooh, fancy. Let's pick up a mind map here that I'm copying directly from the Mermaid website and show you that I can generate mind maps. Let's just do maybe one more. Ooh, my favorite. I'll show you the Sankey, which allows you to show kind of where things are going back and forth. Now, the full demo of this has some cool features, like the ability to edit the title, to be able to put it in full bleed, so you can put the web part across the page, as well as theme awareness and things like that. But that's not what today's demo is about. And by the way, this is the web part when it's hosted inside of a page, right? You can just have content in here. The demo today is about what I wanted to do with this. Because again, as I said, yeah, it's really cool. I can generate Markdown diagrams, but I'm not always too familiar with the syntax. So what I did is first of all, I created this custom Monaco editor. So it's Visual Studio Code that is running in the browser, and it has custom syntax that recognizes what content we're looking at. Let me go get another. Let me go get a pie chart for fun. There you go. All right. So I give the opportunity here for you to be able to update and visualize what you're typing in here. But this is where the challenge comes in. How do I use AI to make people's lives a lot easier? Because I don't want people to have to learn the Mermaid syntax or any other syntaxes that we've discussed. And
Yeah.
the other,
Hugo. Hugo,
Yes.
you can make all of our lives a little easier by zooming your screen a little.
Zooming my screen.
Zoom
I
it.
could do that.
All
I
right,
could
thanks.
do that. Oh, how did it go to?
Wow!
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Thank you. So here's what I did. And the one thing I want to make clear is AI doesn't always have to be a chat interface. For this demo, I am absolutely using a chat interface because I want to be able to do some quick demos here. But instead of having to learn the syntax for, let's say, creating a mind map, what if I said, I don't know, generate a mind map about the solar system. And if the demo gods are with me, what should happen? And this is a big if. There you go. I get a mind map that's automatically generated. Now, it's still dynamic. I can update it, right? But because I also use the context information, which I'll be showing you shortly, I'm able to actually continue asking questions about the same diagram. So add satellites to just add satellites. And if I could spell, it would spell my satellites properly, but sadly, I cannot spell. And let's see if, there you go, it added satellites to my mind map. Now, the cool thing about that is, I can just save it, and I didn't have to learn how to write the mind map syntax. Just another quick demo here to show that this is not hard-coded. Let's say generate a flow diagram of the FDA drug approval process. And this is where we need the cool wait music, David. There you go. So now I got a diagram that got this. Now, how did it get this information is really what I want to talk to you about. So let's go back to them slides. Okay. So the first thing that I'm doing behind the scenes is I am using, for AI, I am using the brand spanking new Azure OpenAI Responses API. It's a really cool API that simplifies how to call AI within Azure. There's also a OpenAI version of it, which was kind of the original version. That's actually what I'm using in today's demo, but both can be used pretty much interchangeably. Why would I use responses? Well, the one thing that responses does over some previous APIs is that it is designed to be future-proof. It is designed to grow. And in fact, the previous versions of the Assistance API is targeted to be deprecated in 2026. It's a simpler mental model is what I meant to say here. You'll see that instead of having to deal with various entities, I can actually just deal with responses. It has built-in tools. So things like the ability to search the internet, call MCP servers, generate images and things like that are built in into the model. And then I can use it across the various modalities. So that means if I wanted to use a real-time voice interface to communicate, or if I wanted to share a picture, upload a picture and say, hey, can you look at this picture and generate a diagram from this? I could do that without having to write too much more code. The structured type safe output is also important. You'll see why shortly. And then the ability to actually send the data in a way that I can say, based on my governance policies within my organization, maybe I don't want the AI provider to store the data I just uploaded, right? Maybe I just want it to be analyzed and then disposed of. That's one of the reasons why you would want to use Responses API. So before, with the Assistance API, you'd use assistants, threads, messages, and runs. But with the new fancy responses, you really deal with one thing, which is responses. So here's a basic request that I would send with responses, right? I would pass the model that I want to use, and then I would give it an input, some text that says, this is what I want you to use. And it will give me a rather lengthy response. But let's just kind of drill through. The first thing it'll give me is kind of an ID that I can refer to later. It'll tell me whether it was completed or not, right? Because sometimes we might have errors or things like that. It'll allow me to call the response in the background. So I actually don't have to wait for it. And this is really useful for large requests or large reasoning, deep research requests where maybe you don't want your computer to freeze while you're waiting for the response to come back. We're not doing that today. And then it gives me an output. And in the output, it gives me different components. In this case, it's saying, I have a message for you. And the message contains this text. Now, here's the problem. The text actually includes both the response that the agent or the assistant is giving me in the window, but it's also given me the mermaid content in one big, ugly text. We'll have to fix that. And then the role of every message is telling us whether this came from the assistant or from the user, which is you. Why would you want to have different messages with different roles? Maybe I don't want to, maybe I want to inject the previous conversation into this new conversation. So maybe what I want to do is I want to inject multiple messages where I say, this is what I said, then this is what you said, this is what I said, and so on and so forth. All right, let's move on quickly. By default, the text that is returned is in the text format, which is what you saw earlier, but we'll be playing with that soon enough. And then you have the ability to create or use tools to actually help you with getting the results. Now, the secret to actually using AI to get the right answers is to provide context. And what do we mean by context? Well, imagine if I gave you a job, you just got hired for your first day, and I give you a job, but I didn't explain to you what your job is, what you're expected to do. I just said, go do your job. It probably wouldn't work so well. And that's where context comes in with AI, is that you want to tell it, where it is, what it's doing, what you expect from it, and so on and so forth. So how do we do that? Well, let's go back from my tools. Let's go back to the request here. One of the first things that I did is I got an ID. When I got the response, let's remember this for later, because here's what happens if I sent a new request and I just said, hey, can you include the timeline information, without telling it that I'm referring to the previous message? It probably would respond something like, huh? It doesn't know. There's no context in your message. And this is why when you send a message that is part of a continued conversation, there's two things you can do. One is to pass it the previous response ID, so it will know that this is a follow-up question. Or two is you could send the entire content of your conversation back and forth every single time. I'm the world's laziest developer, so I prefer to send the previous response ID, but there could be reasons why you don't want, again, the conversation to be stored on OpenAI or Azure. And so this is the same ID that I used before. Now, the other thing that you can do with context is to tell it what you expect from it. In this case, I'm passing instructions that are saying, you're a helpful assistant that helps generating mermaid syntax. That's pretty good, but the one thing you have to understand is the AI model doesn't know the context of where you are. So if the user asks a question about the diagram that's currently on the screen, it expects the model to know that it's currently in a property pane inside of a SharePoint web part, and it's showing a diagram and things like that. So you might want to include something, and this is just for example, but you might want to include something like, hey, you're a helpful assistant, and when you produce mermaid content blocks, I will display them. It's going to be an SVG diagram, it's going to be on the left of the screen, and so on and so forth. That way, when the user interacts with the agent, and it says, hey, can you fix the thing, on the left here or whatever, it understands based on the context I've provided. All right, moving quickly here. Now, the other thing that could happen is that if you think about how LLMs are built, they tend to have, zoom in here, they tend to have kind of a cutoff date, right? They've been trained by a certain date. GPT-4 started with September 2021. GPT-5 was trained until June 2024. Now, the problem is if Mermaid continues to change its syntax, and it does, they constantly add new diagram types and things like that, my code is not going to work. And this is a good example of this. I asked it to do something. It went and looked at its training as of whatever 2021 it was, and it said, oh, in 2021, the flowchart syntax for Mermaid looked like this. But in 2025, the syntax has changed. So how do I do that? How do I take care of things like that? Well, one of the techniques that you can use is something called grounding, where you're able to actually tell your LLM that there's information that you are in control of that it can use to make its decisions and base its answers on. Now, here's the problem. I could probably say, well, okay, I'm going to go to Mermaid, and I'm going to insert every single documentation for every single diagram type. But you saw how many diagram types there are. If I included every page on this website to help teach or ground my assistant, it probably, well, it would cost you a lot of money because it has to parse through that content at all times. Now, the other thing I could do, if let's say I wanted, instead of using Mermaid syntax, I wanted to use policies that we've built with an organization or things like that, you might want to store these documents in a vector database where it's easily accessible and use something called retrieval augmented generation, or RAG, right? It's a pattern that allows you to go store documents that you want to be searched and then ground your assistant based on that content. But the problem is, I personally don't want to have to go take a copy of the Mermaid documentation every single time that Mermaid updates the documentation. It's just not something that I'm in charge of. It's not something I'm in control of. So I would rather do something that's a bit more dynamic. This is where tools come in. Tools is the ability to say, hey, Mr. LLM, when you need this information, you let me know. I'm going to go get the information for you, and I'm going to execute some code, and I'm going to give you the answer you need. So an example of using a tool is to actually say, and this is the typical example that's always used, right? Having a function called weather. So here's the tools, and then the function here is get the current weather. And maybe it calls, it's a function that gets executed on the client. So inside of your web part, for example, and you give it a name, you describe it so that your LLM knows when to call it and what to do with it. And then you describe the parameters you want your function to receive or the function's expecting. In this case, we're expecting a location, we're expecting a unit, and it's going to be one of Celsius or Fahrenheit. And then you say, anytime you want to call this function, I'm always going to need location and unit. And you can also say, hey, call this function whenever you believe you need to do that. So this is a great way, instead of like, because one thing I could have done is I could have said, well, I'm going to parse the question that the user has sent, and I'm going to look for a keyword like mind map, flowchart, or something like that. And then I'm going to inject that documentation when I send the message. But the AI is already doing a good job at parsing the information. It is doing a great job at extrapolating and being able to tell me, hey, the user is really asking for a sequence diagram here or a tree chart. So why would I parse this myself when I can get the AI to do it for me? And then when the AI needs it, I can get it to call my function. So in this example, I built a function that goes and gets the mermaid documentation based on the diagram that you're looking for. So, and what I do is I go get the official diagram, mermaid documentation when you tell me what kind of diagram you're looking for. So for example, here, this is the kind I want the kind like flowchart, graph, sequence diagram, and so on and so forth. And I tell it that you always need to give me the kind of diagram that's coming in. Now, there's one more thing that we need to think about. In this particular scenario, I have an AI that's sending me information, but how does the AI know in my demo that some of the text is supposed to be displayed in the chat pane, some of the other text is supposed to be displayed in the mermaid section, and by extension generated as an SVG file. This is what we call a structured output. So it's the ability to actually tell my agent that, or my LLM, that when it's sending me information, I don't want it to just send me plain text. I want it to use a different format. And this format is going to be a JSON schema. There's the format, there's the schema. And the cool thing about that is I can just say, by the way, I'm expecting you to send me some text. I'm expecting you to send me a mermaid syntax and maybe a header that tells me what type of diagram it is. And I will need absolutely all three, text, mermaid, and syntax, when you send me the message. And the cool thing about that is I don't even have to explain it really to my LLM. It will do a good job at figuring out what to put in what part of the response. And when I get the response, I actually get a JSON structure that I can then parse. And if I tell it be strict, then I know that it will always meet that syntax for me. And that's a great way for me to have, when I get to JSON, I can say, okay, this part goes into the mermaid diagram, this part goes in the chat window, and this is the type of diagram I'm looking for. So how else would you use AI or to improve your user's experience? Well, one of the examples that I didn't walk through today is if you find a syntax error in my code, my mermaid, go fix it for me. The other thing I could say is go generate a title behind the scenes, right? Or go create an accessible description of the diagram so that I can embed it in the page so that we're creating accessible content. But of course, I could use the same approaches, either using RAG or to use a function or an MCP function to go extract content from the page where I'm sitting in SharePoint, or from a document library in a site where I'm located. Because let's remember that the functions, when they're being called, the functions are running in the context of the user where the user is located. So if you're in SharePoint and you're running in a web part, you already have kind of access to all this information. All right, so this was a quick overview of how to integrating AI into your web parts, your existing web parts, to improve the user experience. If you want more information, you can go check out the Azure OpenAI Responses API or the OpenAI Responses API. And if you want to play with Mermaid, go take a look. That's it for me. Back to you, Chris.
Wowee! Great job. All right, let's. There we go. All right. Awesome demos. Thank you very much, Nello and Hugo. Really appreciate it. All this will, of course, be recorded, and you can watch it again. That's exciting. But if you didn't like it, or if you loved it, or if you have, just kind of minor thoughts, feel free to share them with us at this link. We would love to hear about how we can improve the call, kinds of things you'd like to see on the call. It can be anything from the format to the content, just general suggestions. All right. And, can't go to the next slide. There we go. Make sure you join over on our Discord. We had a little bit of discussion of that in chat. Lots of things you can do over there. You can reach out and talk to all those people and talk to us. That'd be great. We'd love to have you. We've got a bunch of people over there already. And then, of course, all of this will be available in 24 hours on YouTube, and you can watch it in double speed, and it'll be exciting for you as well. And be sure to join us again in just a couple of days, or however many days it is, 7 days from now on August 28th. when we're going to have another exciting call. Wow! Thanks, everybody. Great job.
Wow!
Awee!